You are now tuned in to the sharpest podcast that there is. This is the Woodbury Word, presented by the Woodbury Collection. And we have custom tailored an amazing episode for you today. But before we get into it, we want to let you know of all the ways you can get in contact with us. If you're listening to this right now, you are watching us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave us your feedback in the comments. We would love to see them and respond to them. You can also hear this on all of the major podcasting platforms. That's right, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you name it, we are there. Once again, this is the Woodbury Word, presented by the Woodbury Collection. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Woodbury Word podcast. This is Dre.
And this is Wood.
And we are back, season 3. Can you believe we've been doing it this long? We have been gone for a little while, living life and enjoying time with family and vacationing and just resting up. And so now we're back, ready to go for season 3. And we're excited to have you back with us. We are going to follow a similar format that really seemed to work well based on the engagement and your feedback. And so we're going to go with some things that we've been thinking about. And we would love to have your engagement through this. Leave us your feedback, whether it's on our social media. Feel free to DM us or whatever you want to do. But we'd love to hear how you think and what your thoughts are on these topics. And, never know, we might bring you on one of the episodes. So
That's right.
We'd love to hear from our audience. And so getting right into it, for me, my first topic, and we do 2 topics each. My first topic is life changes. Since we last left you in March or April of this year, a lot's been going on. The world seemed to open up a little bit. And now the Delta variant it looks like we're going slowly into another shutdown, if I prognosticate, but who am I? But we've had a major life change, my wife and I. Our daughter, she's 4. She's now in preschool. And she's excited about it. She's loving it. Of course, mom was a little leery. She's grown up too fast. And I'm like, nah, she needs to go to preschool. She's been with us the whole time.
Can't stop that train.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so now it's, she needs the social engagement. She needs to understand that she not only needs to listen to our voices, but other voices, teachers, etc. And so generally there would be no question. You send her to preschool. But now there's this COVID cloud that's over. And so you're trying to weigh, do we do this versus can she afford, or can any of us afford to get sick? And so I think these are a lot of the decisions that we're all making. What's good for our future of our children, future of our careers versus, this COVID situation that seems to be taking a new face every 3 to 4 months. As soon as you think, oh, okay, it's this variant, then a new one comes along. So this seems to be more contagious, even for kids. We first thought it was just older people who had to be aware and concerned and, oh, I'm healthy, I'm young, I'm fine. But now we're seeing that it's younger and younger. And so now, my wife and I, we struggled a little bit. Like, do we send her to preschool, even though she needs the curriculum? And she's extremely smart. I mean, extremely smart. But she's been with us. She needs to have the interaction with kids, with teachers. That social part of it is very important. So I don't know about you, Wood, but man, these are the types of decisions we've had to make. And I'm sure everybody listening has had to make them as well. And it's hard. And I don't even know if there's a right or wrong decision until you get the result. Like the school that she's at last year, thankfully had no cases at all. So, that was really one of the selling points of like, okay, they go through the protocols, they do all these things.
Yeah.
but we're not going to know if this is the right decision until she either gets through it unscathed, and that's our prayer, or there's some type of outbreak and we have to pull her out. And then we're saying we shouldn't have done that.
Right, right.
So, I mean, that's the thing, you know, all of our choices have this COVID cover. We went on vacation this summer and a lady tested positive on the resort.
Right.
And so now, as soon as you hear that, it's like, did we make the right decision?
Right, right.
But we needed the rest. We needed the time to reset and to just spend time with one another without a child. So, you know, every decision now you have to take this COVID thing into consideration, man. And it's a little exhausting, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we have to do in this time is reevaluate our decision-making process. I think there are those of us who overanalyze our decisions. Did I make the right decision? What if this happens? What if that happens? If this happens, then I did not make the right decision. Contrary to that approach, I think laying out the pros and cons, deciding what it is that we will do that we've determined is going to be the best way forward for us, and then going down that road, understanding that there could be consequences on both sides of the path, and not beating ourselves up for making a decision because we did our due diligence in making the decision. So we're not making haphazard decisions in this, in this new space that we're in, but got to learn to live with regrets. And is an unfortunate outcome a regret? Or is that just an unfortunate outcome?
Right. Which is possible in anything that you do.
Absolutely.
You know, and so learning, that's a great point. You know, really that decision-making process, being able to live with the results and just say, hey, we did everything proactively that we could.
That's right.
From a planning perspective, we did everything we could. And this just happened to be the result. It happens.
Yep.
You know, so that's a good point. So that's my first thing is just like, man, life has changed and everything we do, at least for the short term, is going to have the but COVID.
Yeah.
We went out to dinner. Yeah, but COVID.
That's right.
You know, you want to hang out with friends and family. Yeah, but COVID. You know, and that's just the decision that you got to make. And so you try to be proactive and plan ahead and pray and hope for the best.
That's right. I tell you what, man, between you and our other friends who have small kids, I do not envy you all one bit, because it is one thing to have to make a decision and understand that you've got to live with the consequences as an adult. But when you've got to make that decision for yourselves and for your offspring, and you've got very little control oftentimes in the circumstances, the environment, and consequently the outcome. Like, that's a hard position to be in when you're talking about, I always refer to our kids as the physical manifestation of your heart out of your body walking around.
Yep.
So when you've got to make that decision in regards to your kids, like, that's a tough one. Your young kids.
And it also brings into question trust. Like, how do you trust other people? Because you can do everything, right, or so you think.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that their classmates' parents have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Or their classmates' neighbors who may have come over to the house.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't know. So it's that same trust that you put in the person at the red light, that they're going to stop and not run it and run into you and damage your car or kill you.
Yep.
We're almost kind of going with that same trust of, hey, I'm a trust that you're going to do things right concerning this virus.
Yep. Yeah, that's a hard space to occupy, especially when you're talking about your loved ones and things that you can't control.
That's right. So what you got for your first one, Wood?
Yeah, man, I get it. Sort of rolls into that because we're talking about where we are right now. A lot of folks are having to work from home, and that's becoming the normal. It's something that I think a lot of people always wanted as an option on the table with their employer.
Until you're forced to.
until it became the reality. There are pros and cons, as with anything else. There are pros and cons to working from home. We just found out that my wife's going to be working from home for a while now. But what does that look like for like the work week landscape, the career landscape, but specifically the work week landscape? Is this the moment that we've been sort of clamoring for, where we can begin to restructure what an American work week looks like? We can get off this 40-hour 8 to 5 Monday through Friday grind. And since we're all into analytics and numbers and data aggregation, what time slots, what time frame, what work week scenario is fostering the most positive production from the workforce? If we can get this thing tweaked from 5 days, 8 to 5 to, hey, in this specific lane, 4-day week, working in these hours in blocks, working from 8 to 1, and then from 5 to 8 for 4 days a week,
right,
is garnering us the most positive outcomes and the most profitable results. Is this the moment that we've been waiting for, so that we can turn the corner on this antiquated 40-hour 8 to 5 Monday through Friday work week and really flex this thing so that it benefits both the employer and the employee?
That's a great question, because I think we're going to get to a scenario now where the employee may have more power than they've ever had before. So you're going to have a lot of people, and it's already happening. People are leaving their jobs, whether it's because, they don't want to be forced to go back in the office, or they don't want to be forced to take a vaccine, or they're just burnt out and saying, you know what, now's the time. We talked about pivots last season. Now's the time to make a pivot. And I've got this idea. I want to start this, that, and the third. Now's the opportunity, because I've already seen that I can work from home. I already see how much more I probably working from home. Why not use that to, build my brand or my company? So now the question then becomes, what do employers do to retain employees? And do employers say, hey, look, we got to keep, because we got to get the work done. We can't stay open unless we got people here doing the work.
Right.
What works best for y'all? Y'all cool with 4 days?
Yep.
It sounds like a pipe dream, but if we go into another scenario where, people got to stay home for a little bit longer and people start leaving in mass, things like that may happen.
Yeah, I think we're at the point now. So all of the excuses from the past have been, debunked. We can't afford the infrastructure that it would require to allow for so much remote work. Well, that got debunked. Like, everybody was able to get the necessary equipment that they needed, and they worked out the kinks. Not to say that as soon as it went into action, everything was 0 to 80. Like, there were kinks, and we've had a year and a half, almost a year and 3/4 at this point, to work out those remote connectivity kinks. So they've debunked that already. Second fallacy was, you'll be less productive. I think that's been debunked at this point. These corporations have been able to keep moving, and the ones that have been the most successful were the ones that made the pivot early on.
And some have seen the most profits they've ever had before.
Right.
Not just like, oh, they're doing pretty well, and compared to last year. No, all-time highs, all-time records and profits and revenue and stuff. So you're exactly right.
Able to pivot and take advantage of the moment. What does the moment require of us as a company, as an organization? And how can we fulfill that, with the workforce we have in place? So I'm interested to see what that looks like, and if there will be a groundswell for that. Hey, get me off of this 9 to 5 and let me do 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 2 off, what have you.
I'm all for it, man. I really am.
I'm sure. I'm
I'm
sure.
not gonna lie to you.
I'm sure, man.
I'm all for it. For me, and we'll go to the next topic. I've been thinking a lot about primes and windows, and you and I talked about this offline a couple of days ago, and it was spurned by our discussion about Drake and Kanye. And, did we like Donda more or CLB more? And it kind of got me thinking about musicians, artists, as well as athletes, and primes and windows.
Yep.
Um, I was listening to Donda, and I'm not gonna say it was bad. I'm not gonna say it was horrible or anything like that. There's some tracks that I really like, but it's not his old stuff. It's not college dropout or late registration or graduation, and it's certainly not my dark twisted fantasy, dark beautiful, whatever all them
Yeah,
words
yeah,
are.
yeah. Which is
It's a whole bunch of words.
might be his magnum opus for sure.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. And so it's like he's trying to, do these new sounds and all that kind of stuff, but that's not what we said we liked. And so it seems like his prime is over. But it doesn't seem like he's realized that. Like, have you ever had a favorite artist who comes out and says, "This is my best work ever"? And you get hyped because you know the great things that they've produced before. So you're hyped and you're like, yo, if they're saying this is the best they've ever done, this must be like, ooh. And then you hear it and you're like, no thanks.
Yep.
And I feel like that's where he is, speaking of Kanye. And I feel like all of our favorite artists had a point to where it was like, nah, that's not it anymore. Like, your new stuff cannot touch your old stuff. So my question is, are artists aware that their primes are over? Or are fans the only ones that realize it? Because it seems like the artist is always trying to do something new, trying to top themselves, but the audience has moved on. Prince, amazing. His albums really for the last 15 years before he passed, they weren't selling like Purple Rain and 1999 and Sign of the Times and all that kind of stuff. Mike, his stuff, he came out with some new albums before he passed. They had some tracks, but they weren't off the wall. They weren't thriller. They weren't bad.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the thing I always listen to now. To everybody I listen to, I'm listening to, is this your prime or are you out of the prime? Has the window closed on you?
Yeah, yeah. I had two things jump to mind. Number one, Father Time is undefeated, and we are able to see it more clearly in the sports that we watch, because it's pretty objective in sports. It's not subject to your opinion, not subject to your fan affiliation. Once a dude's 40 slows down and his reaction time is a little slower, the writing's on the wall. I don't care how you feel about it. And in music, it's a little more subjective, subject to how you feel this artist's contribution to the game should be sort of framed, and what's going on now versus what was going on then. I try to be wary of just saying, this artist, this is not as good as your old stuff, because I know I'm getting older. Never want to be the old head in the club, or the old head in the group chat that is, opining about days past, when this artist is trying to turn a corner and not just stay relevant for fear of being irrelevant, but stay relevant if that was the purpose that they got into the game to begin with, to be able to bring a fresh perspective to today based on what's going on today. And so for some artists, that means I have to sound a little different, because I'm trying to bring a fresh perspective to today's climate. The question that you and I are always asking is, at what point does your ability to do that start to wane?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
whether it sounds like your old stuff or not, if your ability to make that change starts to wane,
that's true. And then
I
you
need
have
those
the artist,
kids.
but then you have
Like
the artist that tries to change with the times, and you're like, that's not you.
Yep.
So it's a mixed bag. Like, for instance, I was watching Fat Joe IG. I don't know if you saw this yesterday. Fat Joe was on, and then Snoop hopped on, and then JD hopped on, and then Puff hopped on. Because JD called out Puff and was like, let's do this versus. So Puff was hemming and hawing, but Puff did the theatrics. You know how he does.
Yeah.
And he started playing some hits. And JD said something very interesting. I think Puff got him like in the whole exchange. It was like father to son. I mean, he sunned him.
Yeah.
But JD said one important line. He said, "Play some new hits." Puff doesn't have them.
Right.
And so the question then becomes, when can you realize that your prime is over? And then when do you transition into the hits?
Right.
So like when you do a concert, you're not playing your new stuff.
Right.
You just play all the hits.
Right.
When do you realize, hey man, my new stuff isn't charting anymore. It's not selling, but I can always lean back on this and I'm cool with it. Fat Joe said the same thing to Ja Rule. He was like, you don't have no new hits. But Ja Rule was like, I'm cool with that. Because my old hits, the classics.
Yeah.
So he's obviously come to grips with, and it may have hit him, reality may have smacked him in the face, say that we don't want your new stuff. Just give us your old.
Right.
I
mean, this is a tangent that we could go into, but I find that JD versus Puff interesting because the difference there is while Puff is the master composer leading the orchestra, but put them both in a room and tell them bring me a hit in 30 minutes and it's
JD's
no contest.
Win that.
It's no contest, right?
Yeah.
So that goes back to what's your definition of MVP, right? Is it the most valuable? Is it the most valuable player, or the player that does the most for his team?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's true.
But yeah. I totally agree with that. Who knows first? I think your initial question was who knows first? Does the artist or the fan know? It's usually the fan, right? Because even if the artist knows, it's that thing that's in you as a creative that got you to that space to begin with. This unadulterated belief in self and being able to have the blinders and the earmuffs on. And I can't hear anything else because I believe my truth, which is I've got something to create and give to this world that's dope. And I like this conversation because it transcends music, right? It's the same for us. It's the same in the fashion industry. It's the same in career paths.
Yep.
Like at what point does your design fall off? At what point did the colors that Karl Kani was using in the early 90s fade to more of a black gray tone and look?
Right.
And then it fell, and it's we say that, I say that in jest because everything 80s, 90s is now back. So it never really went anywhere, but at the time it fell off. But again, it transcends just music and entertainment, and these are the things that we all deal with. At what point does what you perceived as your best work and what you have to offer and your calling card and your signature, and at what point is the sun setting on that?
And then with the design, you talk about a Karl Kani or a Fubu or all those. Did they fall off only because the business acumen? Well, no, because the audience was saying we don't want this anymore.
Right.
So what can, I guess, the thing that we all have to think about, what can give you the longest shelf life? What's the mix? What's the formula that can give you the longest shelf life? I think that's the question. How can you extend your prime? Like LeBron, how can you extend your prime? You might be hot. You might be Vince Carter dunking everywhere. But as soon as the athleticism starts to wane, you're not scoring 26 a night. Now, you're still in the league.
Yeah.
But you're not an all-star anymore. So what is that? What is that? And I guess,
right.
For us, we're trying to extend our shelf life as long as we possibly can.
Yeah. Hey man, it's crazy that this is where that convo went. We started this convo a while back again offline.
All right, I know. You're like, why did you stop it? We're going to get back into the episode just one moment, but we want to take the opportunity to tell you of all the ways you can get connected and stay engaged with the Woodbury collection. You can follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook at Woodbury Collection. You could also go to our website where you will see all of our ready-to-wear and custom options that are available for you. That's Woodbury Collection, WOODBURY Collection.co. On all of our platforms, you will find out information, updates, new product launches, everything you need. We appreciate your support, and we're going to get back into the episode right now.
But as I was thinking about my second topic, this verse jumped into my head, and it's the perfect segue because it sort of speaks to what we're talking to. One of my favorite artists, by the way, and let me recite the verse. I used to do this exercise with my son where we'd write out verses and have him, decode them essentially. There's a term for it, some sort of reading comprehension term that I can't recall right now, but essentially would have him, lyrics are poetry, essentially, like that. The greatest MCs of our time are poets. So I would have him decipher the poetry. But let me read a couple of these verses, these lines. I met a gypsy and she hit me to some life game to stimulate then activate the left and right brain. Said, baby boy, you're only funky as your last cut. You focus on the past, your ass will be a has what? That's words to live by, or either that's words to die to. I just try to throw it at you, determine your own adventure. Now the rest of that verse is my favorite, but that in and of itself sort of encapsulates what we're talking about. Like, number one, you're only as good as your last hit or the last thing that you did. And then so how do you approach that? And so my favorite artist said, I just try to throw it at you and you determine your own adventure. You determine whether you like it or not. Later on in the verse, he goes on to talk about how after having that conversation, he went out to pick up the album of his favorite artist who was falling off, and he was hoping that they weren't falling off, but the writing was on the wall, essentially.
Right.
And as soon as he picked it up and put it in, there it was. They fell off, and he was disappointed. But I'm going to support him anyway, as he said. So it's funny that that's sort of where the topic that we chose, because my last one was what's been inspiring you as of late, especially in this time that we're in where, we're creeping, the thaw from the freeze that was COVID and lockdown didn't really go the way that any of us expected, I don't think. So as we're kind of slowly thawing from this, like, what has been inspiring? I feel like the world has just been in this haze of gray. And now that we're kind of coming out, even though we're coming out at the end of the summer and into the autumn, what's been inspiring you? What are things that you hear that inspire you? That verse in particular is one that inspires me. That's my favorite artist, Andre 3 Stacks right there. But I was watching Gladiator the other day, and the scene where he's in the smaller Coliseum, and he's figured out that I'm in bondage right now, and I am being forced to kill for sport and for entertainment. And so he goes out and does just that. He goes out and kills, and he accomplishes his task and he screams, "Are you entertained? Are you not entertained?" That's what we're here for, right? And I immediately go back to, in your mind, you immediately are transfixed onto Jay-Z's Black album, where he takes that sample in such an appropriate moment, because to me, I feel like that's when he transitioned from, Jay the hustler to Jay the savant of sorts. Like he really began to see that whole thing in 360 degrees. And it's the perfect sample. Are you entertained? Are you not entertained? Of us putting the blood sport of Black culture and Black struggle put on display on wax for the world to see, enjoy, be entertained by, and profit from.
Mm-hmm. And then he retired after that.
And then he retired.
And then came back shortly thereafter. But it was like you said, it was a new direction,
Right.
new artist, same name,
Yeah.
new focus,
Yeah.
what have you. So I want you to answer that. What has been inspiring you? Because I have an answer, but I'm interested in what your answer is. What's been inspiring you?
It's funny. So moments like that have been inspiring, things that I will see in passing that I remember how I felt the first time I experienced them and how inspiring they were, and sort of recapturing that feeling. Not recapturing the moment, but recapturing that feeling of inspiration. But the other thing, man, this is sort of counter. I don't want to say it's counterintuitive because it's working for me right now, but I've gotten to space where I'm turning off the exterior. Like I'm turning off seeking inspiration from the outside. I'm kind of going back inside internally to, instead of looking to see where the trends are headed in terms of fashion, where the trends headed, what's the next style that we're going to rehash? What decade is coming up next? So let me just go back and see what. So instead of doing that, I've sort of gotten this space where what's inside me that I feel like I want to get out. I've always been the one to wear something that may not be hot at the moment, may not be sort of widely accepted, but it's something that just sort of hits inside. And I'm like, you know what? Boom, that hits. I feel that. I'm going to put that and that and that together, and I'm going to go with it. And that usually comes from inside. So I've been in this space as of late where I've just been turning off a lot of the distractions, trying to do a little less of social media, trying to do a little less of all these things that when we go out seeking inspiration, and trying to connect with what's inside that, that's really driving me, that always drove me. What's that one thing that, oh, there it is. And no one's doing that, right?
No, I'm with you. For me, my inspiration, and this may not be the best way for sustained inspiration, but currently is more so fear. Fear that we don't take advantage of this window because it feels like the new normal is being shaped and determined now.
Right.
And those who have gotten in at the bottom, it's just like in any investment or whatever, you get in early and then you profit once everything kind of blooms and explodes.
Yep.
And so, my fear and what's inspiring me is to make sure that we are one of those brands, one of those companies, whether it's through podcasting, whether it's through clothing, whatever ventures we come up with next. And we have some amazing ideas that we have on the table that we're talking about and really thinking through.
Absolutely.
I just don't want to miss the future.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I want to have a prime. I don't think we've hit our prime yet. I don't want
even
to look at and say, man, if we had just done this, we could have, exploded and had a window. And it may not last forever, but I do think once you have, and going back to, what we talked about with some of the artists, they understood, okay, the music's starting to wane. Let me get into alcohol. The music's starting to wane. Let me get into art. The music's starting to wane. Let me, so, but when you trust yourself because you've had that success before, it makes it easier.
Yep.
you have the confidence that I've done it in this area, I can do it again.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure that we have our prime, build up the confidence to know that when it wanes, we can do something else.
Right.
So that's my inspiration now. It's just I want to be appropriate for the future.
Yep. Yep. I think these ideas that we have on the table that will soon be presented to the masses are in that vein, right? Like let's broaden the base so that we are always ready for the next day, right? Like what the next day looks like. And the next day is not going to look like what yesterday looked like or yesteryear looked like. So
Absolutely.
being available and ready, being ready so we don't have to get ready, having, tomorrow calls for this product. Here you are.
But it's building that muscle memory to
Yep.
believe in yourself, to know that when society calls or when the situation calls for it, I trust myself to know that I can pivot because we've done it before.
Yep.
And
Indeed.
So for me, it feels like a little bit of a race against time as to ensuring that the Woodbury brand is something that people are like, we have to have this.
Right.
No matter what we're offering product wise.
Yep.
We know them, we trust them, we've got to have them, in our lives, and then we will patronize and continue to engage with them.
Right. It's the knowing that anything that brand provides is going to be quality. So that's one less decision I have to make.
Correct.
When I need,
go ahead.
Yeah. When I need food covering, I go and get saran wrap because I know what that's going to do for me. Right. When I need this, I go to them. When I need that, I go to them. So having the product, the lifestyle products, that when the public needs it, they know that's an outlet that I can go to, and I know I can get what I need, and I know what quality I'm getting. The other thing that's inspiring me at the moment is the people that are doing the work in this time. So that's all your frontline workers. That's the folks that are feeding those who are still out of work, who may or may not be getting the additional financial assistance that some states and municipalities were offering them over the past, year and 3 quarters. So there are folks that are out on the front lines that are feeding people daily, that are clothing people daily, that are trying to connect the dots in terms of resources for people daily. I'm drawing inspiration from them too. So I don't want that to be overlooked, especially because it's on my heart, not because it's, it's a shameless plug. That's one thing that I've been fully aware of over the last year or so.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. What they have done has been, the history books will have to talk about it, because I don't think we understand the full scale of it right now.
Yeah.
Because we're still kind of in it. But history hopefully will record it properly, that there's a lot of folks that stepped up and did some selfless things to ensure the survival of others. And so, that inspires me equally as well. But I'm curious to what everyone listening, I'm curious to what inspires you. So please let us know what inspires you, whether it's for, to be a great spouse or a parent, or whatever your business may be, or your career. Maybe you're thinking career change. Maybe you're thinking entrepreneurship is going to be your new lane, whatever the case may be. We're very interested in hearing what inspires you. Hit us up on social media and give us your thoughts. I'm interested in what inspires other people, and it might be the thing that inspires us.
You're right. You're right. Like hopefully we've been able to inspire you a bit just from this small fireside chat, and you drop some inspirational nuggets in our comments that reinvigorates us, that connects the dot, or reinvigorates the next person that reads that comment, right?
Yeah, because I'm gonna tell you what, doing this podcast has really started to inspire me. I'm really enjoying this, And I love long form interviews and discussions where you can fully flush out thoughts and it's not a sound bite or something like that for social media.
Yeah.
So this inspires me. It gets the juices going and the creativity and the imagination going. So hopefully we provide that for you as well. We will be back with another episode soon of the Woodbury Word Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. This is our first episode of our brand new season 3. We got a lot more heat coming from you or for you from us.
Thank you all. Thank you all. And we thank you for the support. We thank you for the inspiration. We thank you for the suggestions. We thank you for the compliments, and we thank you for all. And we do this because as creators, we have to get this out, whether it's a design, a product, or an encouraging word. Man, we just need to get it out, and we thank you for reciprocating that energy. Absolutely.
That's it from us. Peace, y'all.
Peace.